Do you ever wish doctors still made house calls? Tonight on The Best Times, we examine the latest trend of telemedicine. What if you could go on vacation and take your house with you? You can if you live the RV life. And we'll close out the show tonight with music from Breeze Kyo. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plow Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you. Hello, I'm Chris Hardaway. Welcome to this edition of The Best Times, a series that looks at life after 50. I'm sure many of you watching this show will remember when doctors made house calls. I can vividly recall our family doctor coming to the house to diagnose my case of the measles or the mumps or whatever, and handing my mother a prescription with instructions to keep me out of school for a few days. That scenario seems like an anachronism today. But then again, maybe not. Today, doctors and medical professionals are making the modern equivalent of the house calls of the past. Let's examine the latest trend in healthcare delivery, telemedicine. Let's begin by defining terms, because I'm sure there are people in the audience that have experienced telemedicine, but many haven't. So give me a good definition of what telemedicine is.
Well, essentially, telemedicine is the use of technology to have a virtual visit with your healthcare provider or to transmit health information or data with your provider. Sometimes you might hear the word telehealth in exchange for telemedicine, and telehealth is just more of a global term. It can be in exchange of any type of healthcare information or healthcare education, or maybe a mobile application on your phone. Remote patient monitoring where you're sending blood pressure information or temperature information, and then telemedicine.
What can be done through this kind of healthcare visit? I mean, we're all familiar with going to the doctor's office, but what can be done via remote?
Well, if you think of most of your doctor's visits or healthcare provider visits, they ask you a lot of questions, and you provide information to them verbally most of the time. And at the very end of their visit, they might listen to your heart or lung sounds, but a lot of it is them talking with you and asking questions. And that very easily can be done by telemedicine and telehealth.
Are there limitations to telemedicine?
So with a telemedicine visit, you can do anything but touch the patient. So they can visualize your skin and talk to you maybe through a telemedicine visit, but they will not be able to touch or listen to your heart or lungs or do other types of tests. Other things that you can't have during a telemedicine visit is lab exams or other procedures, but your healthcare provider will probably schedule those at another time where you can come in for just labs or the procedure.
You know, I read several articles in researching this topic, and one of the articles, the headline was, "Telemedicine may be the only good thing to come out of the pandemic." I guess telemedicine is having its moment during this pandemic, right?
It really is, and a lot of health systems, providers, and clinics have quickly implemented telehealth. I have been in the telehealth realm since about 2005, but payment for telehealth or telemedicine has not been there. These were relaxed when it came to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we were able to provide telemedicine visits in the home, also provide telemedicine visits by phone, and those were reimbursed by payers.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's a big issue for everybody involved in this. Does Medicare, Medicaid, do private insurers pay for telemedicine visits?
They do. During the COVID-19 pandemic, they did a waiver which allowed for payment for these types of visits. They had paid them previously, but a lot of times you had to go into another clinic type setting for reimbursement to happen. But now you can have the visits reimbursed. The provider can be reimbursed for a visit in the home.
Do you have any idea what might happen post-pandemic with insurance reimbursements?
I really do think because healthcare providers were able to use it, patients were able to use it. I see telehealth and telemedicine being a thing that continues even after the pandemic.
How well is telemedicine being received by the healthcare profession?
Really, it does depend on the provider and their experience and the infrastructure they have in their clinic. Some providers do not have information technology or IT support, and so some struggled. Other providers who were more tech savvy or maybe had been using a little bit of telemedicine before the pandemic quickly implemented expanding their telemedicine visits and will continue to use that.
Well, you mentioned IT professionals, and that brings up this topic because there are many people, especially older citizens, that they may not be tech savvy or they may not have the necessary equipment, the computer or the tablet, the smartphone, the broadband connection. They might not be able to afford it. So how do you adapt telemedicine to that kind of situation?
I would suggest an older citizen, if they're unsure how to participate in a telemedicine visit, ask one of their friends or family members to help them. Be sure you test the equipment and the place where you will have the telemedicine visit. You can use a smartphone or your friend's smartphone or family member's smartphone, a laptop computer with a camera, or a desktop computer with a web camera like what I'm using today. Make sure the lighting is good in the area where you're sitting, and you actually test the visit where you will be conducting the visit. Make sure you're in a quiet area with your family members. And then the nice thing about telehealth and telemedicine, you can invite family members to attend the visit like you would with an in-person visit.
Is a regular telephone call a fallback position if all else fails?
It sure is, and technology does fail at times. I lived in a rural area for many, many years, and some days my internet connection and cellular connection was very good, and then other days I could barely talk on the phone. So it does vary, and it may change from day to day.
Do you think that telemedicine has the possibility of lowering the cost of healthcare, and or do you think it's going to improve the efficiency of healthcare delivery?
As for cost, that's difficult to determine right now. There are a lot of studies that are being conducted to determine the overall cost related to healthcare. I know one thing, I think it will improve comprehensive care for patients and efficiency of care for patients. So as long as you're connected in with your healthcare provider and healthcare system that you typically see, they can chart in your electronic health record, and multiple providers can see the visits. There are other types of telehealth and telemedicine where you can go to a portal with a provider who is not connected to your health care system, and sometimes that can increase utilization or the number of visits because you have to go into your provider, your typical provider.
Well, lastly, let's talk about the future because technology changes so quickly. What do you see as the future of telemedicine?
I see a hybrid model where sometimes you go in for an in-person visit with your provider, but he may schedule, let's say if you have a nutrition consult, schedule that by telemedicine into your home, or even some types of speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy can be done by telemedicine. So it is a good way to provide comprehensive care in the home, in addition to healthcare provider visits.
Well, Dr. Rhodes, thank you very much for being on The Best Times and talking about telemedicine.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
The pandemic has put a lot of vacation plans on hold. People are fearful of getting on a plane or taking a cruise or simply staying in a hotel away from home. But what if you could take your home with you on vacation? That is the concept of RVs. The sale and rental of recreational vehicles is booming because of the pandemic, and it makes sense. You can travel anywhere in the country and never have to leave your home. It's the RV life. America has always been a nation on wheels. We've loved our vehicles since the days of the Model T. Somewhere along the way, someone thought it would be a good idea to put a house on wheels, and that gave birth to the modern RV, or recreational vehicle. Technically, that includes everything from a pop-up camper to a $1 million motorhome. So who buys RVs? Over 80% of RV buyers are 50 and older. They're people like Donna and Ed Motorin, who enjoy the freedom their motorhome offers.
You know, having an RV, you go wherever you want to go. It's an adventure way of life.
Recreational vehicles come in many different shapes, sizes, and prices.
Three basic types. You have a Class A, a Class C, a Class B. All those would be motorized. And then, of course, in the towables, you'd have a bumper pull travel trailer, and you would have a fifth wheel travel trailer.
Class A motorhomes are the luxury yachts of the RV lineup. They're built on a bus chassis, can be up to 45 feet long, and cost as much as a new home. In fact, for some RVers, it is their home.
The Class A typically gives you more room and more floor plan options just because they're typically larger. So that's probably the biggest advantage.
Class B and C RVs are very similar. The Class B is built on a van chassis, the Class C on a truck chassis, and both cost about as much as a nice new car.
The C is very affordable, and I think that's its biggest advantage, that you can still be motorized. It's going to have almost as much room as your A. And then when you go to a B, that's typically going to be a small family or a couple's unit. It could be just the van body itself, or it may have a built-on or added-on slide-out or something to give you a little more room. But the advantage of the B would be the ease of traveling and maybe not taking a second tow vehicle with you.
There are two types of non-motorized RVs that attach to either the bumper or the bed of a heavy-duty truck. Because there's no motor or drivetrain, these fifth-wheel RVs can offer economy and luxury at the same time.
It's going to give you, one, more room. It's more livable. Even though it's larger, it's easier to tow and easier to maneuver.
Choosing an RV is largely dictated by the way you will use it. Weekenders and vacationers can get by with a smaller unit, while seasonal trippers and full-timers will need the space offered by one of the larger RVs. Currently, the industry is booming, with expected deliveries of over 380,000 units this year. That growth is fueled in part by the boomer generation. Dawn and Martin Donnelly are in their 50s and have been RVers for 5 years. They've owned 2 RVs, a Class A motorhome, and this brand new fifth wheel model. Today they're doing their favorite thing, spending a long weekend at a state park.
And we very quickly kind of fell in love with this setting. You know, sitting by the fire in the morning with a cup of coffee. We sit outside in the evening a lot with the fire going, taking the dogs for walks, going out in the woods. And so we really latched on pretty quickly to, this is a very pleasant way to go spend a few days and relax.
At one time we talked about getting a lake house someplace, but then we realized with this, we have our lake house. We just take it wherever we want. We just take it to whatever lake or whatever area we want to go. It comes with us.
Donna and Ed Motorin are spending the Labor Day weekend at a campground outside Sam's Town Casino. They're both retired, they've owned 4 motorhomes, and they've been RVing for 14 years. For them, the RV lifestyle means meeting people and getting to know them.
It's a family. It's just not just a overnight stay, but you meet the best and you they become friends for life. The people that we stand with next door here, we have been traveling, living, going RVing with them for the past, what, Donna? 11 years. We met them at an RV resort, and we're looking right now, and we became the best of friends.
Whether you're in a commercial campground or a state park, whether you enjoy the solitude of communing with nature or prefer the company of fellow RVers, the lure of the RV lifestyle is traveling wherever the road takes you.
We go down to Destin, Florida a lot, to the beaches. We go to the Great Smoky Mountains, to the mountains, okay?
I've been flying for 30 years and I've crisscrossed this country and seen some of the neatest things, and I can't tell you how many times I've been, oh, I'll bet that's pretty neat down there. And now I want to go do it the slow version. Literally, there are places I have seen from the air that I don't even know what's there. I just want to go there and see what that's all about. And so that's kind of our retirement plan, is take off for a couple or 3 months, go enjoy kind of a region of the country and come back home and do it again a few months later.
It's a life that has no east, west, north, or south. You just, wherever you think you want to go, you can go.
At Tom Sawyer RV Park in West Memphis, Cheryl and Phil Gaston are walking along the bank of the Mississippi River. They are from Atlanta, or they were from Atlanta. In 2015, they sold their business, sold most of their possessions, sold their 3,500 square foot home, and moved into a 350 square foot RV. And on July 4th, they hit the road permanently. It was a decision 2 years in the making.
About the time we put the business up for sale, was about 2 years ago, or a little more than that now, we started talking about it. You know, why don't we just hook up and go? Just, hook it and book it. It was a little scary pulling out. Here we go. This is it. This, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Here we come. Ready or not.
Cheryl and Phil aren't newcomers to the world of RVs. They started out years ago with a pop-up camper and worked their way up to their current fifth wheel model that they call their tiny house. And now they're driving it across the country. They've been through the Badlands of South Dakota, to the top of Pikes Peak in Colorado, where they also had a photo op with the famous Wienermobile. They've driven down Route 66, stopping at the Big Texan Steakhouse for a meal and another photo op. And they've driven through the Texas Canyonlands with a stop at the Cadillac Ranch. It's a lifestyle that reflects the freedom of the road.
You meet a lot of fun people, and then you see so much of the United States. I mean,
Yeah.
you just see so much
Yeah,
that
going
you
to
would
see
never,
things that you
never
only
would.
dreamt about and seen on, television or in magazines, and you can drive up and there you are. And a lot of places we've stayed have just been breathtakingly beautiful, just unreal. You look out this back window and like, oh my God, I can't believe this is my backyard for really as long as I want to stay here.
In addition to taking in the sights along the way, they've also taken a few jobs. Cheryl and Phil have joined the ranks of work campers, a migrant workforce that travels from job to job. They've worked at RV parks and during the last Christmas season at an Amazon fulfillment center in Kentucky. They earned enough money there to pay for a year's worth of fuel.
There was a couple that were 76 years old, and you work 4 days a week, 10-hour days. And that was their 4th year, and they've already signed up to go back next year.
They go back every year.
Yep.
There are no accurate statistics on the size of the work camper force, but there are dozens of websites listing hundreds of jobs in every state. Cheryl and Phil's next stop is Houston, where they'll do an 8-month stint as supervisors at a water park. And beyond that?
I think I'm going to go up the coast and skirt Mexico and head up into the California and skirt that coast and head up towards Oregon.
Full-time RVing isn't a lifestyle for everyone, but Cheryl and Phil see themselves living on the road for quite a while.
I don't know how long we can do it. We can do it a long time, I think, as long as it's fun.
And we have
That's
our
really,
health.
as long as we're having fun, I'm going to hang in there and keep doing it.
There's so much to see. I mean, people wait till they retire to do anything, and then they might not make it to retirement. So I just said, let's do it. Let's sell everything.
It was really a chance to live
It was.
for us.
Exactly.
Because we were literally living to work.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And it was, we looked at it as a chance to go live.
Let's close out the show with a couple of songs from Creative Aging's Breeze Kayo. Enjoy the music. Want more information about life after 50? Go online to watch more shows and find more resources. And send us your feedback and story ideas to besttimes@wkno.org. That's all for this edition of The Best Times. Please join us next week for more stories about life after 50. Until then, I'm Chris Hardaway. Thanks for watching. Good night. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plow Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you.